Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. No intro today. I am terrified that the intro will break down the beautiful stasis and calmness that we have here on my laptop because I have been without power all day and I'm operating off of hotspots right now to be able to record this show. Bryce, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. Sam, I wonder if we can just get a 7-game series of this Rockets Thunder matchup that we saw on Tuesday night. Like, can we, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it would be for, but I would be interested in watching it because I felt like I watched game 1 of the Western Conference Finals here on opening night.
Unbelievable opening night basketball game. I thought I have notes. It was not the highest quality game through the first, I don't know, what do you want to call it? 3 quarters, let's say. I was texting somebody that I'm friends with for one of those two teams. And I was like, this is basically more physical than the Steelers-Bengals game last Thursday night right now. It was such a brawl on the interior between Hartenstein and Adams, between Şengün just like pummeling his shoulder into everybody and trying to score. I loved this basketball game entirely. I thought it was such an incredibly fun atmosphere. I don't really know that there's anything to take away from it long term, but we're definitely going to talk about a couple of things that I'm like really interested in from this game. Oklahoma City wins. By the way, I'm Sam Vecenie. This is the Game Theory Podcast. I don't even know if I introduced this because of this beautiful calmness that we have cultivated here with my hotspot. 125-124, Oklahoma City wins in double overtime. Really seesawed back and forth in both overtimes. OKC jumped out to a big lead in the first overtime. Houston came back. Houston jumped out to a bit of lead in the second overtime. OKC came back. In the middle of that, we had a delightful Kevin Durant, Chris Webber-ish moment where they could have thrown this thing entirely off the rails. What a delight of a basketball game for narrative reasons, for anything that you want to look at. I think that the first place I want to start, though, and here is just my overall takeaway from this. It actually doesn't have to do with Oklahoma City, who I thought was outstanding tonight defensively and in terms of infrastructure. Alperen Şengün goes for 39, 11, and 7, 12 of 24 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3, 10 of 11 from the line. I'm not saying that Alperen Şengün's jumper is like 100% fixed. It definitely looked better, certainly going back to summer competition with Turkey, and it looks pretty good right now, I would say, and he looks very confident shooting it. But I think that where I'm at is that if Şengün shoots the ball with this degree of confidence, like I don't even know about like make miss yet. Like we'll talk about that maybe, but if he shoots the ball with this degree of confidence from 3, he's like not just making all NBA, he's like making all NBA, and it's not even going to be a question. Right now, again, it remains to be seen where the jumper will fall through the entirety of the season. This is a 1-game sample. But I thought it looked really good tonight, and I am thrilled for the season that he's about to have.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same thoughts in terms of one of my first notes is he going to take and make these 3-point attempts all season long? And underneath it, no hesitation, and he's confident. He just looks super confident with it. Trail threes, all of that. And then it opens up his ability to attack off the bounce. And I thought Chet kind of stonewalled him early in the first quarter on a couple drives, and then Şengün figured it out. That's one thing I always love about Alperen is you can see him figuring things out throughout a game. He had one in the third quarter. We put his shoulder right into Chet and then finished with his left hand. When he's making the little 8-footer, he's really tough to stop. He has a really fun cadence with the way he attacks off the bounce, long stride, short stride, decel, all of that different stuff. But I think adding the 3-pointer adds an element to his game to go along with that stuff, the passing and his improved defense that, to your point, Sam, makes him a real I was sitting there watching Houston going, man, Alperen could have an all NBA season. Amen could have an all NBA season, and they have Kevin Durant on this team. Like, this is just a super talented basketball team when you factor in some of their other pieces. So I know they lost this game, but I came away very impressed specifically with Alperin and then Amin Thompson as well, even though we didn't get to finish the game.
Yeah. And the first half was really interesting just because I loved their defensive strategy, first and foremost. The reason that Shea struggled in the first half was not that Shea was deferring, not that he was, in some way, shape, or form, not himself. It was that Houston did an amazing job of putting two on the ball and ball screens and forcing the ball out of his hands, in my opinion. And then they mixed and matched zone from time to time. Like, I thought that they were expert level in terms of how they attacked Shea defensively in that first quarter, and particularly in the second quarter as well. And Amen played a huge role in that, obviously. Amen was unbelievable defensively in this game. And moreover, whenever Shea let go of the ball, Amen didn't let him get it back, was the other piece of it that I thought was really, really impressive. The second piece of this here for Houston, and I know Houston lost this game and Oklahoma City fans are probably losing their minds. I just think that Houston's a little bit more interesting because this is a new team, right?
Yeah.
So the other big thing that stood out to me was these bailout shots at the end of shot clocks, right? It's now Kevin Durant taking them, or it's now Alperin taking fewer of them and Kevin taking the ones that Jalen took plus a few more, right? It's just a huge difference in terms of the way that their offense operates. I thought that their offense was super sputtery and messy in terms of execution tonight. And they're going to have a long way to go in terms of figuring out, okay, can we live with Reed on defense? We'll talk about that in a second. Can we really run out this two big lineup all the time? Are we going to need increased offensive efficiency in some situations? But I think that what I most will take away from this is just that they are big, they are physical, they absolutely are going to win the offensive glass. They beat the hell out of Oklahoma City on the offensive glass tonight, it felt like to me, especially when that big trio of Adam Şengün and Jabari Smith were in. Those guys ended up with 12 offensive rebounds between them tonight. It was just an awesome game. It was such a fun game in large part because I felt like Houston stepped up to the challenge in a real way in a pretty emotional environment in Oklahoma City.
And I think that is one thing to remember when talking about this game and these two teams is these are two of the better defensive teams in the NBA. I think that was one of my big we know this about Oklahoma City, and you're right. It's almost like OKC doesn't get talked about enough because it's they were awesome defensively. Yeah, Shea did MVP level things. I want to talk about Cason Wallace when we do to get to OKC because I thought he was tremendous tonight and made a bunch of big plays. Brooks Barnhizer gets some early minutes in the first half in this game, which I thought was awesome. AJ Mitchell makes some buckets, but it was two really good defensive teams. And it was a reminder to me how good Houston can be, even without a Fred VanVleet, who is a good, smaller guard, point of attack defender, screen navigator, all of that. This game was 124-125 in double overtime, Sam. How many regulation games are we going to see in the 120s this year in the NBA? This was just two really physical, quality basketball teams that really defend and aren't bad offensively, right? We have one of the greatest scorers in NBA history on one team. We have the reigning MVP on the other team. We had Chet going crazy in the first half. We have Şengün playing at all NBA level, Amin playing at a all NBA level, maybe. It was really, you're right. It was a little bit clunky and physical and stuff, but I think that's because these two teams compete at such a high level and are so good defensively. I do want to reiterate something you said. I do think they missed Fred VanVleet late in this game on some offensive possessions, just getting organized, getting the ball where it needed to go, and those type of things. There's one that stands out in my mind, double overtime. Shepard's just trying to get the ball to Kevin Durant and he turns it over and it's a huge turnover.
Yeah. I do think Lou Dort's holding the shit out of Kevin Durant that entire possession.
100%. 100%. Now, it should also be noted that Amin, again, did not finish this game, so he was not on the floor.
Yeah.
But I do think that's something they will have to figure out in terms of these late game situations, getting everything organized and structured in the ball, where it needs to go, when it needs to go there.
So if I'm a fan of the Rockets, I'm coming away from this going, okay, we competed on the same floor with Oklahoma City. This is game 1 out of 82. I feel great about where this is at right now, right? Like so early in the year, we like took a punch from them. We battled, we scratched, we ultimately just lost. Amen goes out. You know, who knows what happens, right? And yet Oklahoma City wins this game without Jalen Williams, which is kind of the biggest thing to me. They kind of reasserted their dominance in a big way. I love the way they adjusted, like playing more step ups for Shea to be able to kind of get him loose. They set screens higher up the court to be able to get him loose as well. I thought that was really, really sharp from them. I mean, just utterly outstanding to me. I loved the way that they went through this. I loved the way that Shea kind of worked his way into this game. Shea somehow ends up with 35 in a game where I think he had 5 in the first half because he just completely took over in the second half. And a big reason for that too is not a big reason, a reason for that. They really attacked Reed Shepherd in this game. Like they were aggressive in attacking Reed. And by the way, go to the Game Theory Substack. GameTheorySamV.substack.com. Earlier today, I released a big breakdown on Reed's game, 29 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, a bunch of stocks in the final preseason game they had against Atlanta. And my overarching takeaway was that he was like horrific in that game defensively. I know he had 7 stocks. It was the worst 7-stock game you will ever see defensively from somebody. Like he got beat off the bounce by Keaton Wallace. He got driven backward by Luke Kennard, got cooked by Trae Young. Like it was a really, really, really bad defensive game from Reed. And I thought that happened again tonight. Like he felt lost in the first half when he was out there. That kind of allowed Oklahoma City to kind of get back into it. And then in the second half, it just felt like they were attacking him relentlessly. Even if they were in zone, they were trying to isolate Reed on one side of the zone, be able to get Shea to certain spots, right? It's hard because you look at the box score and he goes 3 for 11. He has 9 points. He has 4 assists. I thought his ball movement was awesome. And they didn't even lose the minutes that he was out there somehow. But a lot of what I kind of talked about in that Substack video I did, again, GameTheorySamV.substack.com, really came to fruition in a way that concerned me, I would say.
It was definitely concerning tonight. He gets into the game and he immediately gives up a blow by to Lou Dort on a closeout. And then on the very next possession, Dort attacks him, kind of late transition, spin move, wide open layup. And then I think it was later in the third quarter, straight line drive to Cason Wallace. And the thing about those ones those aren't even guys like you can understand when SGA gives somebody buckets, kind of like the way Luka did to Kuminga tonight in the second game. And I thought Kuminga is a huge storyline of that second game tonight. And Luka was incredible offensively and Kuminga just couldn't do anything with them. And I can almost excuse that away because Luka just looked like an MVP caliber player tonight. We're talking about Lou Dort, who I love, Sam. I absolutely love, but not for his ability to break you down in isolation and spin move to a wide open layup. And again, I love Cason Wallace, but it's normally, Cason picked up a rebound here, took a charge there, hit a big 3 there, which he did multiple of. Not straight line drive at you and finish. And exactly what you said, I just felt like OKC and teams in general, they're just going to go after him. They're going to find him and they're going to attack him. And he's got to find a way to hold up, whether it's just being better, just fundamentally, foundationally, or getting his hands involved and digging and blocking shots and whatever it is, he's got to find a way right now.
Yeah, I felt, and I felt this way in the preseason as well. I feel like he's almost trying to play to his hands too much, and
sure, it could
trying to play off of guys a little bit too much. Saying, okay, like I can get my hands in there. That's probably my best way to like make an action play here, right? So I don't know. Like I'm a little bit hopeful that maybe this can get figured out, but I'm not. I'm not sure yet what to do. I feel like the strength factor, though, is the thing that repeatedly comes up for me when I watch Reed right now. It just feels like he really lacks a level of strength to be able to like deal with guys at the point of attack. Like Shea had the one where he's kind of brushed him off and got to like a step back, which was just so easy. It felt so easy for him, right? So, like be it that you sit in zone and kind of dare guys to shoot over the top of Reed. Like, I think that's an option for Houston. Eventually, I think Oklahoma City did kind of figure out the zone in a real way tonight. But they have to find an answer for Reed. It might just be that Reed has to get better on defense at the end of the day. I think that is an unequivocal reality of the situation. Or it might be that they might struggle to play him. And ultimately that was like kind of my theory, is that they might struggle to play him a little bit. Because I don't know that Ime is going to trust him at the end of the day. And if Ime doesn't trust you on defense, it's going to be hard for him to put you on the court. And that's kind of where my head was at after even watching like a 29-6-6 game where he had 7 stocks, right? Like it was, okay, do I think Ime is actually going to trust this guy? And I didn't know. Is kind of the thing.
There is one when you talk about maybe going too much with the hands, specifically where SGA loses him with the behind the back dribble. And I remember seeing the replay and Reed is trying to reach, like he's reaching across his body, Shea's body, to try to get the steal, and it puts him way out of position. So not only is he like getting beat, but he's just getting completely blown by because of the reach. And so maybe that is it. Maybe he's leaning too much into it and being more fundamentally sound and just trusting himself to stay in front and guard it. It also is funny when you just think about Chet's and his body type. And I'm always so impressed with Chet's ability to take contact, even with his body. And Reed just doesn't seem like he has that, that lower body strength or contact balance or whatever it is. As somebody that's not super big and built, but neither is Chet, right? And Chet's able to take that contact. I realize very different type of players.
Well, no, like there's like a real toughness with Chet.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
And I don't want to sit here and say Reed is deficient in the toughness category, although like given Ime's standards, he might be, because Ime might have a bigger standard for toughness than anybody in the league. But like Chet is honestly, like, I think that Chet is like borderline, if not exceptional, like he is genuinely really tough. He's just skinny, right? Yeah. Reed is not that. And I think that Reed plays off the body so often and like just doesn't like to deal with contacts. I think that like he just doesn't handle it well with his game, right? So that's ultimately going to be like the thing that sinks or swims his career and certainly his season for the Rockets this year. If I was the Rockets, though, one thing I will say, their schedule does like kind of ease up a little bit after this, by NBA standards at least. I might want to see them like try and rock this for the next 10 games, especially if Amen's going to miss some time here, and just kind of get him rolling. It just felt like Amen was cramping, by the way. I don't want to sit here and say he has like some serious injury or anything.
Yeah.
But like, say he misses the next game, say he misses like 2 games because they're being ultra conservative or whatever. I just, over the next 10, their schedule is not bad. I think it would be good for them to kind of give him some runway to figure things out.
I will say too, as you talk through this, I think there is a guy on the bench that Ime does trust to defend, and a guy who has shot the ball, decently well throughout his career from the 3-point line in Aaron Holiday. And so, I do think that there is a guy that they could turn to, maybe not the same upside, especially offensively. Well, definitely not the same upside offensively as what you would assume Reed has, but a guy I feel like Ime would trust if they needed to turn away from Reed. So as we talk through this, again, this is like one game. I don't think either of us are calling for Reed to be benched or something like that.
And I'm sitting here saying play him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, go for 10 games here.
I just want to point out that if we get 15 games, 20 games in, and it's a lot of this same stuff, Ime does have the answer on the bench to go to with a guy I think he would trust to go out there, defend, and knock down open shots.
Just a couple more notes here on Oklahoma City, because I'm sure, again, Oklahoma City fans are going to lose their mind. I loved Chet's aggressiveness offensively tonight. I thought it was outstanding, especially early in the game. They really, really needed it. I thought that AJ Mitchell was great tonight. 16 points on 12 shots in 14 minutes. Particularly like in the second half, his back cutting was amazing. Like he was awesome. They needed it. And he was so good as a back cutter to be able to get to certain spots. Was absolutely fantastic in that respect. Aaron Wiggins gave them some big minutes, I thought. And you mentioned you wanted to talk about Case and Wallace. It was funny. I texted, my buddy who works for one of these teams in the middle of the game. I was like, man, like Kaysen's like struggling in the first half, I thought. And I was worried because like teams would leave him open last year. Obviously, like that's the whole thing with Oklahoma City. Like if you can find guys to leave open and they will record scratch. Like that's how they ended up shooting 13 for 52 from three tonight. But Kaysen ends up going 3 for 8 from three. He has 14 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals. And man, like he just made big play after big play after big play for them in the second half.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So real quick on Chet, I also want to highlight that Chet made a couple big threes in overtime as well before he eventually fouled out. And he struggled a little bit in the third quarter. He had the huge first quarter, the huge first half overall. And then I think it was the third quarter, all of a sudden the jumper wasn't falling. But then he hits one from the corner to start overtime. And then another one, he kind of helped build that big lead that they eventually relinquished in the first overtime. So just kind of the mental toughness from Chet there. Again, he eventually fouls out. AJ Mitchell, you talked about him. But yeah, Kaysen, I just think he does all the little things, Sam. He'll go grab an out of area defensive rebound. He had an insane baseline cut, catch, whip pass to the weak side slot, and Dort just missed the shot, who was 0 of 8 tonight, by the way, from the 3-point line, or that would have been a highlight reel play. He had a momentum 3-pointer in the third quarter. He had that drive and layup versus Shepherd that I mentioned. He has another one, just huge third quarter stretch, middle of the third quarter in general, fourth quarter 3-point make, double overtime 3-point make. I just thought he was huge. I will also say on AJ Mitchell, I thought he was decent at the point of attack against Shepherd also. Like he's a guy you can see that's going to be able to defend second unit, primary initiators and ball handlers and all of that, along with the shots he made. So, this is what we talk all the time with OKC. Even Brooks Barnheiser comes in for a couple minutes and, takes his shot at Alperen Şengün defensively. They just have so much depth. And I'm glad you mentioned, J-Dub didn't play tonight. And that is an important thing to remember because that is their second or third best player, depending on where you stand on that.
Particularly where that shows up is what I described in the first half in terms of what Houston was doing on defense, where they're just blitzing Shea every time. Well, if you have J-Dub on the court as your secondary offensive option,
sure,
it just completely changes the geometry of how Houston has to defend you, right? I was surprised Houston went away from blitzing Shea as much in the second half. Obviously, Oklahoma City did some things, setting screens higher up the court, setting more step-ups that made it a little bit more difficult to do that, obviously. But, I was a little bit surprised they went away from it, even in moments where I felt like that they could have done a little bit more.
And I do think we need to give Shea some credit. I know we talked about him a little bit, but he was quote unquote quiet. I think he had a very good defensive night for somebody who, pushes back on where some people are on Shea's defensive impact and ranking and whatever. We've had this conversation. I thought he had a lot of impactful plays tonight, but the dude just made huge shot after huge shot down the stretch. And you can see why he's one of the best few players in this league. He showed it tonight and it was really impressive and just an all in all fun game. I just enjoyed watching it. I was frustrated because the other game was like, a quarter and a half through by the time I had to have my wife sign into Peacock on her phone so I could watch a little bit of that one. So I wasn't completely out of the loop to talk about it. But man, it was an enjoyable game to watch and analyze and take notes on.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot less about the Warriors-Lakers game just because this game was so great and I feel like it kind of overwhelmed everything. But, we've gone 25 minutes now and we have to ask like the final question here. I wanted to do this last just because like I don't really care that much. Kevin Durant obviously called a timeout and that game should have been over at the end of overtime. Like, right?
Yes. You can see his hands. Like, I don't know.
Shea even said after the game that he was saying the words timeout too.
I mean, the only thing you have to look at is Şengün. Şengün doesn't react the way he reacted if Kevin Durant's not trying to call a time. Yeah, you could see Şengün's like, he's trying to stop him. Obviously, he was calling a timeout. So, yeah. I mean, I don't mind that we got double overtime. I don't mind that at all, but he 100% was calling the timeout.
Yeah. Şengün like had this incredible, unbelievable game. And the best thing he did all night was like stop Kevin Durant from doing more timeout, so that the game would end. Unbelievable. One last thing I want to note here before we move on and do some ads. I loved the NBC broadcast for the Oklahoma City game. I was like I didn't really pay attention too much to the Lakers Warriors one. So I'm not going to sit here and say like anything about that broadcast group, but I actually really liked the Tarico, Jamal Crawford and Reggie Miller trio. I thought that they were really good. I thought Jamal particularly was outstanding. And I thought that like his ability to analyze basketball in a way that is like so simplistic in a lot of ways, while also like digging, into it in an intelligent, compelling way. I thought really balanced nicely with like some of the things that people get irritated with Reggie Miller, right? Like I found myself a lot less irritated, and like I don't mind Reggie as much as other people do, but there are things with him where it can get a little bit irritating from time to time. I felt like Jamal's just like kind of cool analysis really, really kind of played off of Reggie incredibly well and minimized the irritation that I could feel from time to time with Reggie. So I thought that was really good. Their production team was outstanding too. I thought like it was really good.
Yeah, I didn't listen. Some people may know this. Lots of times I don't even listen to the broadcast when I watch games. So it's more so background noise for me. But I will say I didn't notice anything that drove me crazy or annoyed me or, caught me like, and I had a few different texts from people about, just the intro song and, taking back and the nostalgia of all of that. So that was cool. But yeah, I thought it was good. Like from the little bit that I pay attention to it, I thought it was good.
Yeah, and the last thing here, they obviously did the Michael Jordan thing at halftime. I don't even know if you saw that or watched it.
I was behind, so I fast forward through.
Yeah, so they like did this little sit down where Mike Tirico went into Jordan's like home office or whatever and talked to Jordan. Very clearly, like for the next month, they have banked like all of these talks with Jordan in between like him going out and hitting 36 holes on the golf course. Like it's... I'm going to laugh when he's wearing the same exact outfit next week when they do this. Like it's definitely going to happen, but he wasn't even saying anything like crazy compelling. The dude just has fucking aura, like in such a real way. Forget him being like the best player to ever play basketball. The guy, when he talks, just has presence, like in a real way. I think that the two are connected. Obviously, he has this incredible innate confidence because, or like he's a great basketball player because he has this incredible innate confidence, but like it's just this incredible aura like around the guy that I just found myself compelled by what he was saying, even though like what he was saying was like, I don't know, like you or I have not rented a house and had to shoot free throws in front of the guy's kids and like felt the pressure of wanting to make them because we're Michael Jordan. But, like nothing he said was like, crazy compelling. Right. But it was just like, oh my God, this is fucking Michael Jordan. This is cool.
I just know that it was, I opened Facebook or Twitter or something, and there was already one, like there was already a quote from it, and, it had just happened or whatever. So it obviously was a hit because people were already talking about it, tweeting about it, making Facebook Facebook, posts about it and all of that. So it sounds like something that's going to be continuous. Like this is going to be
feels like once a week or
something.
so. Yeah.
Got you.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll see. Okay. Let's get some ads real quick and then we'll talk about Lakers Warriors. The first sponsor today, MIZZEN and Maine. Shout out to our good friends over at MIZZEN in Maine. Let's be honest, most dress clothes are uncomfortable, they're high maintenance, and they just don't feel great to wear. If you spend too much ironing, dry cleaning, or tugging at stiff fabrics, MIZZEN in Maine is absolutely the choice for you because they make classic menswear with performance fabrics that make it effortless to feel sharp and great. They invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago. And since then, they've perfected it with modern fabrics. MIZZEN in Maine shirts and pants look refined, yet they're stretchy, lightweight, moisture wicking, wrinkle resistant, and completely machine washable. That makes it so easy when you're trying to wear dress clothes, right? It is truly a timeless style that you can invest in once and enjoy for years. Again, like I will wear MIZZEN in Maine on the golf course. I think that it is just so comfortable, particularly pants. They really make life so much easier when you're trying to wear dress clothes because of how comfortable they are and because of how lightweight they are. I am such a MIZZEN in Maine fan. Right now, MIZZEN in Maine is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmaine.com. Promo code GAME20. That's MIZZEN and Maine, MAIN.com. Promo code GAME20 for 20% off. MIZZEN in Maine, promo code GAME20. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find MIZZEN in Maine stores in select states. I've been wearing MIZZEN in Maine since before they sponsored the show. So this is like the easiest sell for me in the world. I am a big MIZZEN in Maine guy. Absolutely go and support MIZZEN in Maine. We're also going to shout out Momentous. Most supplements are a guessing game. You never really know what's in them or if they're even tested for label accuracy. But that's why I trust Momentous. It's because their creatine is NSF certified for label transparency, and it's trusted by pro athletes and even the military. I know I'm getting the best whenever I use Momentous. Look, creatine is not just for muscle gains. It's essential for daily fuel for your brain, body, and long-term performance. Look, I've talked about before that I have ADHD, right? So like focus is obviously a huge thing for me. Trying to figure out focus, trying to figure out how I can make life functional a lot of the time whenever I fall into these rabbit holes. And creatine obviously helps a lot. Just taking, smaller doses of creatine just can help with brain functioning and focus in such a real way. Every batch is independently tested for purity, safety, and label accuracy. And their travel packs now in a lemon flavor. They make staying consistent effortless. They're naturally flavored, perfectly portioned, and easy to mix with water anytime. They have over 2,000 5-star reviews and over 112,000 customers that have seen results firsthand. Right now, Momentous is offering our listeners 35% off your first subscription order with promo code GAME. That's up to 35% off your first subscription order with promo code GAME. That's Live Momentous. Go to Live Momentous, LIVEMOMENTOUS.com. Promo code GAME for up to 35% off your first subscription order. LiveMomentous.com. Promo code GAME. Okay. Yep, Bryce. Again, a game without LeBron. The second game, Lakers Warriors. At home for the Warriors. At home for the Lakers. I'm sorry. Warriors win 119-109. This just felt like the ultimate, I feel great about where the Warriors are, especially entering the year. Elite team in terms of togetherness, elite team in terms of comfort together, and elite in terms of basketball IQ. That's the thing I keep coming back to with this group, man. Like, they're just going to be miserable to deal with on a night-to-night basis because their off-ball movement is so crisp. They're so unselfish. And then they have guys like Jimmy Butler who can just absolutely annihilate mismatches. That's the big thing that they missed last year. I felt like early in the year was a guy who could just absolutely go out and crush mismatches. That's why they were always so lethal with Kevin Durant, right? Because this offense is going to create switches at the end of the day. That is the reality of the situation. It's going to create mismatches in the way that Jimmy Butler just absolutely throttled Gabe Vincent time and time again tonight. I thought was such a big part of why the Warriors were successful. 31 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists for Jimmy Butler, 16 for 16 from the line, 7 for 14 from the field. The third quarter was just like such a, absolute domination. It felt like to me watching it. I don't even know what the box score says in terms of what the score was, but they just were unstoppable on offense. It felt like to me in that quarter.
So they won that quarter 35-25. You mentioned Butler 16 free throw attempts. It just was very apparent, and it was always Gabe Vincent. They just found a way to get Gabe on him, and then Butler would get to his spot and either jump and score over him or get to the free throw line. He's really impressive in terms of being able to play in those isolations against mismatches in the mid-range or wherever he wants to get to, playing off 2 feet, but then also playing off the ball and his movement and his passing ability. There was one down the stretch where he runs a ball screen with Steph Curry. He's the short roller. He catches, he hits a cutting Gary Payton second and, get an easy dunk off his ability to play in that action as well. And you mentioned it, that those guys, and then I think the other guys as well, Pods has played in this system for a little while now. Even Kuminga, who I thought played within the system better than maybe we've ever seen in terms of his passing and ball movement. If you're a team that just doesn't have your switches figured out and your off-ball defense and your rotations, you have 1 or 2 guys that are ball watchy, this is a team that's going to just destroy you. If you can't find Buddy Hield in transition or with off-the-ball action, you're going to be in trouble. And then they just find guys to make like these little plays. I think Pods did it a little bit. Will Richard, the rookie tonight, had a really nice game for them.
Yeah.
Defensively, they ran an out of timeout action for him. He hits a hammer corner 3-pointer. Really nice minutes, 14 for Will Richard in his rookie debut. And then Al Horford just adds another little element on both ends of the floor. So I thought they were very impressive.
Man, that Florida staff tried to sell me on Will Richard so hard. And I was like, he's just a little too small, I feel like, for me. Like, I loved it when they recruited him. Like, I think he was their first ever recruit, that Todd Golden staff that is there now. I think that literally when he got the job, like the first guy that said that he was going to Florida was Will Richard as a transfer from Belmont.
Yeah.
And man, they like really loved him. And I was just like, he's not really like big enough to be like a true impact defender. He shoots it okay. He's just tough, man. And like he moves well without the ball. He knows where to be. I thought he gave them great minutes tonight, even before he drilled that 3. Like Draymond's ball movement was outstanding tonight. I mean, they had him like run the show for significant portions. Just, it felt like early in the third quarter, it was just split action, counter off of the split action, counter off of the counter, like split action again. Like it was just like over and over and over again. We're getting Jimmy in the post and, having Dre set a screen for somebody and then Dre's going to cut back door. Like it was just absurd the way that they kind of ran the Lakers kind of off the court in the third quarter to me defensively. For the Lakers, it felt like exactly what we expect, right? With this group, without LeBron, at least. Austin Reeves was fantastic late in the game. 26 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, but Luka just completely dominated. 43 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, only 3 turnovers, 17 of 27 from the field. Destroyed Golden State defensively. He looks to be in better shape. He looks like he's moving incredibly well. I thought there were some moments defensively late in the game when it tightened up a little bit where we saw him lock in occasionally.
Yeah.
But, man, they just don't got a whole lot else on offense right now is the problem.
I mean, those 2 guys scored 69 of the 109. That's 40 points left over for the rest of the crew that played, which was 7 other players. And the third leading scorer was DeAndre Ayton with 10. So just not enough, offensive juice without LeBron from these other guys. I thought Doncic was incredible. I thought that was, if Luka Doncic is going to win MVP, that's what he needs to look like on a night. I mean, he's not going to go score 43 every night. I thought he was relatively engaged for him defensively. You know, he had a rotation block even in the first half. There's a ISO possession versus Curry late in the game. We know he's not going to be a major plus on that end of the floor. But if you're putting up 43 and 9 on, you know, this 17 of 27, didn't even shoot well from the 3-point line, I think that level of defensive engagement is going to be good enough. So I thought he was really good. Reeves struggled with some turnovers and some different things, foul trouble, but he got it going a little bit, ended up with good numbers. I don't know. Listen, Sam, I had some hope for DeAndre Ayton with a little bit in the preseason. I don't know why it did not look good tonight.
Neither do I. I don't know why you did either.
I know. I'm stupid. This was not a DeAndre Ayton performance that gives you a whole lot of encouragement that he's going to figure it out and be the centerpiece, and not the center, not the centerpiece. Luka's the centerpiece, but that center that they need. It was not reassuring or encouraging or any sort of confidence from me coming out of this one.
It was just very passive.
Yes.
Like I would have, and look, he's just not this guy. So like, why would I hope this? But like, you know, I would have hoped that he would have come out trying to dispel that idea, right? Like if this was going to work, or if it's going to work in the future, this is only one game. It's going to be because he ups the energy level and he ups the aggression, and it just felt the same, and it felt very passive. And, you know, I think that JJ is going to have a tough time with that one. You made me bet.
Yep. No, it's. I do want to quickly touch. I thought Jonathan Kuminga was good tonight. He moved the ball well. He knocked down threes. I just thought he looked very bought into the ball movement and passing. And if he's willing to play that way all game long or all season long, this gets really interesting. Just in terms of, do they end up keeping him? Does this end up fitting? You know, all of that. And I just want to highlight, like, he had the offensive rebound tonight that led to the Steph Curry kind of dagger. I don't know if he did the night, but he's the one that kept that possession alive. And then Curry hit the highlight shot. I was very impressed with his game. It's one game. He looked very bought in and very bought into the team construct and, again, moving the ball, passing the ball, all of that stuff. And I really appreciated that about his game.
I thought the third quarter particularly was good for him. Look, he drilled 4 threes tonight. He's not going to do that all that often this year. If you made me bet, like the shot still looks quite slow. You know, it's not like it's mechanically sound or anything, right? But I do think that the thing that you mentioned in terms of the passing and the ball movement and the fact that he fit into everything I talked about up front with Jimmy and with Draymond and with Steph, that he's willing to play that role and just fly and move around, like, especially if they're going to start him and like play him with those guys. That's all he's got to do, really. Like I would like to see him defend a little bit better, frankly.
Sure.
Like, really, he had some problems with Luka, but like everybody's going to have problems with this version of Luka at the end of the day. So I don't know that I can sit here and crush him too much for that necessarily. It just is what it is. I think that's all I've got on that game. Honestly, it just felt like a Warriors team that is better than a LeBron-less Lakers team. And, you know, they look like they are very together and ready. And I would guess they're going to go on a run here to start the year, just because I think that they're going to catch teams that are still kind of figuring out their pieces a little bit and just like catch them and not be them, the other teams not be ready for the kind of off ball movement, the crispness, the passing that they typically see.
Sure.
Okay. We want to do extensions quickly. The good news is that we only have to talk about 3 extensions, Bryce. There are only 3 extensions that were signed yesterday. Only 2 rookie extensions in Dyson Daniels and Christian Braun. Aaron Nesmith signed a veteran extension as well for 2 years, $40 million that we'll talk about. But overall, what was your impression of the extension period? We had 9. That's a bit of a decrease from what we typically see. Did you feel like there was any difference in how teams approached it to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the numbers came in lower than I thought. Obviously, we reacted to the Tamani Kamara deal live, which I thought was incredible. And while I think the Dyson Daniels deal I think that ends up being a really good number. I do wonder if 3-4 years ago, before this CBA is really the salary cap wouldn't have been as high, I guess. But I wonder if that would have been a higher percentage of the cap, right? If they would have paid him more.
Bryce, literally last year, it happened with Jalen Suggs, right? Jalen Suggs got 30 last year and had like a very similar-ish year to what Dyson Daniels did. All defense, he made threes, whereas Dyson's like a little bit, better of a cutter. Dyson was a defensive player of the year finalist. Jalen was, I think like 6th in all defense voting or whatever. Like that's the deal that I would look at. And I know that was the deal that Dyson was trying to get as well, was the Suggs deal.
And so I just feel like we see teams, I don't know, call it what you want, playing hardball, being more diligent, whatever. In general, it seems like teams probably did that and then just waited for guys to make a decision. Did they held steadfast at 25 a year? That's what both of those guys ended up getting. And then some guys didn't take the deals. And I do wonder if teams watched how how these qualifying offers played out this offseason and felt like, hey, we're willing to go down that road with some of these guys. And so there was maybe a few names I thought maybe would get done. I thought Jalen Duren might get done in Detroit. I didn't think Jaden Ivey was going to. You had mentioned like Walker Kessler, you didn't think was going to get done anyway. But I do think, and you brought up a good point. I've been thinking about this as well, and I think you tweeted it out. Even though 90 million is a different number in the NBA world in terms of salary cap and whatever, $90 million to just a person living in the United States of America hasn't changed a whole lot over the last 5 years, right? I mean, I realize inflation is real, but inflation isn't the same as what the salary cap is, right? So $90 million to a human in the United States of America is a lot of money still, where even if it's a little bit less in the NBA salary cap infrastructure.
This was my biggest takeaway, was that there is a very significant difference now in terms of like NBA percentage of the cap money and just like real dollars in the world, right? And that's the pressure that these teams can put on players now. It's not that, oh my God, like, you're bidding against nobody, we're taking you to restricted free agency, etc. It's, no, get this deal done now. Don't risk getting hurt over 20 million when you're already making 100 million.
Yeah.
Like that's absolutely the game that NBA teams are playing now against players that they're drafting and then signing to rookie extensions, because they don't want to have to play that game. And ultimately the teams have all of the power there because they have restricted free agency rights and can just match whatever deal. And my impression was that like the Hawks were just willing to go into restricted free agency and match whatever Dyson got in restricted free agency, right? But if you're Dyson, like, to me, it's not that you just watched one of your friends in Josh Giddey go through restricted free agency and, have to sit around forever and then eventually get for 100. It's that, why would I risk injury? Like, why would I play that game when I have this much money sitting on the table that just completely changes my family's life? So that's kind of where I'm at on it. Like, when we did the Dyson thing, I think I said that I thought it would be 27-28 if you made me bet. Because I knew what, I knew that they were using Jalen Suggs as a comp, and I figured, probably between where the Giddey deal came in and where the Suggs deal came in made sense, right? I think to get him for 100 is good. I would bet you that the shorter term part of it was actually on, and I don't know. This is me speculating. I would bet you that the shorter term part of it was a concession to Dyson, not a concession to Atlanta by Dyson. You know what I mean?
Like Dyson trying to get back on the market earlier.
Exactly right. And get, an extension. It's not that he would leave Atlanta. It's that he could get an extension earlier, potentially, when more and more TV money comes in. So that's my guess on what the concession was there. It was not money. It was, we'll do 4 instead of 5 and you'll hit the market earlier.
Let me ask you this, because I went on a Kings podcast Monday night and we talked about the Keegan Murray extension. Have your thoughts on the Murray extension changed at all after seeing where the Tumani number came in, the Dyson number came in?
Well, the Tumani number is just apples and oranges, because that's the max that Tumani could get if he wanted to do one now. And in the same ballpark of what we just said with, with Dyson, like, and certainly Christian Braun applies here. Like, if you have that much money on the table, you might just want to be like, hey, here's $80 million. I'm Tumani Kamara. My deal is for $2 million this year and $2 million next year. Let's rip up next year and get 20 in the bank. Right. Yeah. So it's just, that's apples and oranges to me, the Tumani thing. Do I feel a little bit differently? Like, I think if I was the Kings, I might have held the line a little bit longer.
Yeah. That was my thought is, do they look at it and go, man, maybe we could have played a little bit harder here?
But it was going to be 25 no matter what. Like, it's not like they sign these deals and then Keegan does 23, right? Like 25, 28, 3 million matters, but like it's 3 million is going to be what? 2% of the cap? No, like 1.5% of the cap here in 2 years. So it's just like, it's a small decision. It's a small concession to make somebody very happy when, your team is not in the greatest position that we think right now. So I didn't have as much of a problem with it as some other people did. Christian Braun is one that we haven't talked about, but before we get to Dyson and Braun, I do want to talk about some guys that didn't do deals. The first thing is Walker Kessler. We talked about this when we did the extension preview. I didn't expect that they would do a Kessler deal. Like there's just real cap hold versus cap space incentives for Utah with Walker Kessler. His cap hold is only slated to be $14.6 million next year. So they can keep his restricted free agency rights, go out and like go play in unrestricted free agency. See if you can go get somebody. See if you can go get like Austin Reeves. See if you can go get, Kuminga if he comes available, like whoever. I'm literally just spitballing names. I'm not saying anything specific. Guys that are like real difference makers for you potentially in your team build. And then you can re-sign Kessler last for like $25 to $30 million a year, which is what I'm sure he wanted because he's a very good defender and is a great finisher on the interior and can help them run some actions in a 5-out. Like Walker Kessler is like by far to me the most proven player that did not get an extension this cycle. But to me, the reason for that is pretty simple. If I was Utah, I would want to keep the cap hold low so I can play in free agency next summer and try and expedite this rebuild.
Yeah, no, I mean, that one makes sense. Whenever you just look at it from the cap situation, I was just looking through the other guys. We talked about all the bigs, him, Mark Williams, Jalen Duren. Mathurin and Ivy, I think, are interesting ones just because of, I think Mathurin's really interesting because of the season he could have there in Indiana. Is there any others?
I mean, I do want to, you blew by that team on your background there a little bit quickly. Like what is your overall thought on them not doing, because we thought that it probably would not happen for Ivy.
Yeah.
And that it was more likely for Duren. Let's go with.
So my guess is Duren's camp was just high, would be my guess, because I thought that's the one where maybe the delta on the outcomes is not as wide, in my opinion. There just was never a whole lot of steam though, Sam. Like, even Amari, reports, anything like that. There just never seemed like there was. So I don't know if this is Trajan's first go at this. And so I'm kind of interested to see if, maybe he's one that will hold the line. These are not guys that he drafted. That doesn't mean he doesn't like them, but I think it is important to note that they aren't guys that he drafted. And so maybe he values them less than what they see as their value. Maybe he just wants to see another year of it. I mean, that was always my thing with Ivy is we only got the 30 games last year. So getting another full season, which we're still not going to get because of the knee injury, to really evaluate and see where he's at. I just thought that maybe after how Duren finished last season, depending on how they felt about his offseason, maybe there was a number there that, in the 20 to 25 a year range. I don't know if Detroit had that on the table, if that's something they would have been comfortable with, and Duren just wasn't there. I'm not really sure. We haven't heard numbers or a whole lot of reporting about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting because, I agree with you. Like Duren was one that I didn't get a lot of like background like noise about either, to be honest. So it could have just been, like you said, like maybe the camp was asking for too much and the Pistons just decided, we're just going to play this out for a year. Sorry. Those were the two big ones. Like you mentioned Mathurin, like that just felt complicated to me given their situation financially where, you have Obi Toppin, you have McConnell, you have him, like they're so close to the second apron, even without Miles Turner now. To where like if they had signed Mathurin, they'd be like skying over the second apron in terms of projections for next season. So I understood that one, just like maybe keeping your options open a little bit more. I mean, like anybody else here, like not so much to me. Not like a wild stunner in any way, shape, or form. Like we obviously got Paulo done, we got Chet done, we got Jabari done, we got Keegan done. We talked about Sharp. We'll talk about Dyson here in a second. No Sohan, that was one that I was wondering, like, could the Spurs do it at like a cheap number maybe?
Yeah.
But, he's been productive when he's played and he's a good defender. So, if I was the Spurs, I'd probably want to play it out and see what Carter Bryant looks like this year and see if I can just get 3 more years of cheap production for the role that Sohan is going to play for us moving forward. And if I was Sohan, like I would feel like I'm worth decent money just because I've averaged like 11 points per game so far in my career, which is not all that bad.
Yeah, I think the other one, Tari Eason, is probably the biggest name that we have.
That's the big one. Yeah, and KD got that done, got his extension done earlier in the week. When that happened, I kind of assumed that it would get done.
Seemed
for Tari,
like that's what everybody thought, yeah.
Because there was just a number that it was not going to go over. Right. I think it's like 25-ish or so, 26-ish. And I don't know, like I like Tari Eason a lot. I think we saw tonight, like a lot of what makes him good in terms of athleticism and length. And we saw a lot of the over aggression and, lack of handle and inconsistent shot that sometimes pops up for him. Right. I really like Tari as a player. Like I don't want to sit here and demean him. I think he's outstanding. And like, if they wanted to trade him, it would be multiple first round picks from whoever wanted to do so. Like he is a significant value in players like this that are crash and bang fours and wings who can guard on the perimeter and really impact the box score. Like they are really valuable, but I do think there's a reason, for instance, that like all of the like stats people on the internet want Jabari or want Tari to start over Jabari. Right. And, Jabari, even though he doesn't dribble well, is like actually a little bit more reliable, like within scheme a lot of the time, and can shoot a little bit more consistently and consistently gets guarded as a shooter as well. So it is interesting kind of across the board to me that didn't get done. Because I do think that front office loves him and like would very much like to retain him long term.
Yeah, that was, whenever the Jabari one got done, I found it interesting what they were going to do with Tari then. And, like those numbers playing off of each other and what Tari would then want, like what his camp thought about him in relation to the Jabari. I think tonight we saw that Jabari's a little bit more, he started anyway. And, in that jumbo lineup, it was funny. My son was like, Dad, did you know the Houston Rockets start this many players at this height? And I was like, you realize I do an NBA podcast, right, son? Like you understand that I talk about this, 2-3 times a week, right, buddy? But I
look at you just shit talking your son.
I'm just like, dude, come on, man. But I wonder if they just said, if they're going to do the same thing that you just said, if they're going to let him hit restricted free agency and then just feel fine about matching, an offer sheet that is out there for him. Or like, do you think there's a world where they're still trying to gather data on Tari? Like, I don't feel like it's that play, like kind of what I outlined with Jaden Ivey. Do you think they're still trying to figure out where he fits in their ecosystem and that could be part of it?
To me, the only data is like health for him.
Sure.
Like he's played 22 and 57 games the last 2 years, right? Like I wouldn't blame them if I would want to see him get through a full year healthy before dropping 25 a year or something like that, right? I'm sure that they were like, look, if we're willing to go to like 20 or so, maybe it gets done, maybe it doesn't. I don't know, but yeah, I would be interested to know a little bit more about what the numbers were there at some point and kind of understand what ended up happening with that one. Because I did think there was some momentum for it to get done at some point. Ochai Agbaji, I thought he might do something, but that ended up not happening. I think that's really it, in all honesty. Peyton Watson, I guess, but like, I don't know. That didn't make a ton of sense to me. Yeah. Christian Braun, his teammate, though, did get done. 5 years, $125 million, $25 million a year. I think he could have held out potentially for a little bit more. I think we said somewhere between 25 to 27 was going to be the number for Braun at the end of the day. Look, it's no secret that Nikola Jokic loves playing with Christian Braun. And I would imagine there would have been some disappointment if we're rolling into next offseason and there's any question about whether or not Brown's going to be back. 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2.6 assists per game, shoots 58% from the field, incredible transition player, does make 40% of his threes on low volume, right? Like 2.8. If you can get that up to 5 per game, and make 38 to 40 like he has throughout his career, would be massive for him.
Yeah, and I think this is part of the deal they made this offseason. I think made it more palatable for their cap sheet whenever you exchange out Michael Porter Jr.'s deal for Cam Johnson's, and then now you feel better about your ability to lock in this long-term money at this number. I know there's a lot of people out there that feel like maybe Christian Braun's a product of playing with Jokic, and there's probably some truth to that. I don't know that Christian Braun's as effective of an NBA player on some teams, but he is on this team. He does have real chemistry with Jokic. Jokic seems to really trust him and enjoy playing with him. And when you're the best player in the world and you kind of have somebody like that, I think that's meaningful and impactful and matters. I'm really interested to see if Christian Braun can increase the 3-point volume this year, because he is definitely worth this contract if he's able to do that. You mentioned the transition. He's a great off the ball cutter. He takes a lot of I think the area I'm most encouraged to watch is defensively, because he does and will be tasked with a lot of the point of attack matchups. And he's not a guy I think I considered whenever we did our all defensive team stuff at all, or our top defenders in the NBA stuff. And so I'm interested to see if he can continue to, because he has good size. He's strong. He's athletic. So can he really sit down and
plays with effort too.
Plays extremely hard and with energy. Yeah. I'm just interested to see where his defense can go. Like, what level can he get to? I don't think there's all defense level, but can he get to a top 40 defender in the NBA? Can he be a top 50 defender in I don't know where he's at right now. Maybe he's already sniffing around top 50, but that's probably those two things. How good of a defender can he be? And then can we increase the 3-point volume? Because we know he does all of the other stuff at a very high level.
Yeah, wasn't really a consideration for me as a top 30 defender.
Correct.
In the NBA.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
Yeah, in the next group, maybe I could see that possibly. Yeah, like a excellent player. And look, at the end of the day, to me, players are like, how they're going to be productive in the role that they're in. And Christian Braun is unbelievable with Nikola Jokic. Yep. Like, to me, there's like very little chance that this deal for this team looks bad, right? As long as he keeps defending, keeps cutting, keeps making plays. I like it quite a bit. Dyson Daniels, does the 4-100 again, a little bit less than what I thought it would be. Braun was like in the ballpark of what I thought, but Dyson ended up being like a little bit less because I thought that like the all defense, the accolades, the like 14 points and 6 rebounds, and like he passes the ball well, right? Like I thought that would end up carrying just like a little bit more at the end of the day, but Atlanta held firm. And again, like another Ansi Salah special where, he's done an amazing job with this group so far and, continues to do a great job of building out this roster and doing so in a way that is fiscally responsible.
Yeah, I think this is a really good deal. I think if it would have been up 30 or more, which, was what sounds like maybe Dyson was looking for. We talked about the Suggs deal and all of that. It would have been a little bit for me, but I've, as people know that listen consistently to the pod, I'm a little lower on Dyson's defense. Now, I want to be clear. We had him very high in that all defense rating, but I don't think he's DPOY conversation like some people have him in. He's extremely disruptive, but I do think, just truly at the point of attack at times, he's not like this elite stopper that some guys can be. And I also then give him a lot of love on the other end of the floor. I always try to promote that I think he made major strides offensively last year as a cutter, as an offensive rebounder. The 3-point percentage did go up for Dyson Daniels last season on a little bit higher of a volume. And so I do think now he's to a point, we do talk about his defense and we debate his defense so much, we sometimes don't talk about his offense. And I think he's just a really nice fit. You talk again about being on a team where he's a good fit. He's a really good fit playing in the backcourt with Trae Young and off of some of these other players. They have floor spacers, even now with a big that can stretch the floor. So I think he's in a really good spot. And I assume he will have another big season for Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up like the cutting, the ball movement that he provides, the fact that like he can handle some point guard when Trae Young goes to the bench, right? Passes super well. Like there's just a lot that he brings to the table that's really, really strong and really, really good. Even beyond just like the playmaking on defense, and the transition of defense to offense is huge for him. Right. Just so many pick sixes and so many like easy offensive opportunities that kind of come their way due to his presence on the court. So I have no problem with this deal. This deal makes sense to me. The other deal that made a ton of sense to me was Aaron Nesmith.
Yeah.
Aaron Nesmith had the ability to, I think this is like right around his max number in terms of what he could sign for. But, I believe he could have gone for even another year. Look, I said this on Twitter and, it ended up doing quite well in terms of numbers, but like these guys in the league are just truly my favorite. And by these guys, I mean players that like struggle early on in their career, like go through some like real adversity, right? Where it's like, shit, like maybe I'm not an NBA player, right? And Nesmith, like his first 2 years in Boston, I do think that like it was a question as to how it was going, right? He showed some flashes in the second year, but like really just did not shoot the ball well in his second year, which was like kind of bizarre because he's always been like a really high level shooter. And then he gets to Indiana and he's just like, not like day one starter, but like pretty damn close to a day one starter there for the last 3 years. And it's just been awesome. And it's gone so well for him. And he had to scratch and battle and claw. Man, like you see the number of guys that have gotten options declined, have gotten cut off of rookie scale deals. It becomes so easy in today's NBA to lose your confidence, to lose like what made you elite when you were young, that swagger, that unflinching belief in yourself that all of these dudes, if you're going to make the NBA, like you have to have on some level, right? I'm not saying everybody is like boisterous about it, but you have to have it in some respect, or else it's going to be a problem. I love these guys that like just fight through that, have, any sort of, maybe he didn't have questions about that, but like it would be easy for them to develop questions about that. They kind of scale that mountaintop or that plateau or that peak, whatever you want to call it, and then just go and keep getting better and keep growing. What he did last year in the playoffs was incredible as a primary defender, as a big time shot maker. 2 years, $40 million. Like this and the Tumani Kamara deal are the two deals from this week where I just immediately knew as soon as they got signed, oh, well, those are on the best contract list that Bryce and I will do in March or whatever. Like no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, because it doesn't kick in for a couple of years. So he's still on a flat 11 million for this season and next season. And then it doesn't kick in till 27, 28, where he's going to be under 20 million. And just to give the numbers, the 3 years in Indiana, Sam, 843 point attempts, 40%. So 3-year sample, over 800 threes, and he's at 40%. And he capped that off this last postseason, shooting 49% on 122 attempts throughout the playoffs. And as you mentioned, he also defends and he rebounds. Just a really good player. You outlined all of the story aspect and the backstory of what he's went through in his career. Just an incredible contract. 3-and-D wing that's high level on both aspects of that.
This is a guy that I thought about within our like top 25 defender list.
Sure. Yeah. I think he's on my long list if I pulled up my sheet. So absolutely is right there in that next group and tier of players. This is just a really, really good deal all around. Great job by Indiana. And like you said, Aaron Nesmith gets to lock in $40 million more, a couple years down the road. So good for him as well.
The last kind of thing I want to talk about here is just like Milwaukee. Again, we're going to talk Milwaukee very briefly here. So the Bucks cut Tyler Smith. He was their last roster cut this cycle, and it just like continues to highlight maybe how hard it is to draft, like at the turn of the first, end of the second, beginning of the second, everything like that. Because Tyler Smith went like 35 or so. It's the 32, whatever it was. And they continued to take these teenagers, unfortunately. And they took guys like AJ Johnson and Tyler Smith and Chris Livingston at the end of the second, but like a guy that they seemingly manufactured dropping to the end of the second. That was my read on it, who also got cut this preseason. I'm sorry. They took Marjon Beauchamp, a guy that also like was very young in the game, like didn't play really like his senior year of high school, did like the Chameleon BX thing, and then like didn't really play D1 basketball, went to like Yakima Community College because that's where he was able to go to start, and then ends up with the G League program on like a tryout in front of Rod Strickland, and then plays well in the G League for that year, and gets himself drafted in the first round, but was young in the game and like was probably not ready to go from day one, right? Even though he was like 21 years old at that point. To me, it's not that these guys were like bad players. AJ Johnson, another example of this, who they've traded already, like in the Middleton deal, right? To get off of the Middleton contract, basically. It's not that these guys are bad players necessarily. Maybe AJ Johnson becomes something. Maybe Tyler Smith and Chris Livingston. Like, I actually liked the steps that Chris Livingston seemed to show at Summer League this year. It's just that there's such a categorical misalignment in terms of what the Bucks were trying to do over the course of the last like 3 or 4 years, trying to win titles, trying to like really bring it under Giannis, trade for Dame, still have Drew Holiday for the start of that. Then we're like shifting out and going to Kyle Kuzma because we think Kuzma is going to help, right? Like, you're trying to contend for a title and trying to convince Giannis to stay. And yet you're drafting children that like can't play for him, right? They can't play with him immediately, or probably your best hope in a lot of these cases, Tyler Smith and AJ Johnson particularly, like, is that year 3 is going to be when they're ready to play, and that's just going to be hard. Like, that might be after Giannis is gone already at that point, right? So it's not to me that like they misidentified talent. Maybe they did, like maybe that'll bear itself out, but it's more to me that the strategy here was just all wrong. And you look at the guys that they've drafted that have been successful. Like, they drafted Sam Merrill and then cut Sam Merrill, which was a mistake, but like is what it is, right? If I remember correctly, I believe they drafted Sandro Mamukelashvili, who backup center for the Raptors, like, has turned into a guy that's like actually useful. AJ Green, who they just gave a 4-year, $45 million extension to. All these guys were like 4-year college players, right? That ended up being good. Imagine if you had like expended more resources on that, like you might not be in the position that you are right now, I guess is my thing. And I'm not saying that like, look, you can go way too far the other way on this, right? You can do what the Denver Nuggets did and took like Julian Strawther and Jalen Pickett and Hunter Tyson, guys that I had like universally outside of the top 40, and they took them all in the top 40, right? But I do think that there's probably a happy medium there where you're taking guys that are probably a little bit more ready to play, that you also like, and that maybe you can get something out of while you still have Giannis. And like, it just never felt that way to me when they were drafting in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that with the Nuggets, that we felt like the idea of the process was right. Just the execution was extremely, extremely poor in terms of the players, because Denver was trying to get cheaper young talent for a team where the aprons and the taxes, especially, all of that stuff matters. And so another thing we always talk about is this top-down approach, right? Are you an organization that knows the type of players you want, that knows the system your head coach is going to run, and the type of players he needs to fit into that system? And it's not just the draft, it's free agency. Indiana's the team, Oklahoma City's the team, the 2 finalists last year, even Boston, I'm sure you could say this about as well. Can you identify, okay, what is my head coach? If this is my head coach, what type of players does he play? I was talking to a scout recently, and we were talking about players, and they would have players that I had, in the top 20, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't even have them on the board. I'm like, what? And they're like, oh yeah, our head coach would never play him. And it's like, oh, well, when you're a scout for a specific NBA team, you need to be thinking, what does my head coach like and want to play and be willing to play? And Doc Rivers was never going to play these guys, Sam. It was the same thing in Denver, right? Michael Malone was never going to play those guys. And so get on the same page as an organization. Either get your head coach to believe in your vision, or get on the same page as your head coach and draft in players that he can develop and that he will play and that fit into his system, or find a new head coach.
The organizations that do development the best in the league are the ones that have that top-down approach. Miami does a great job with this. I think that they do a really good job of identifying the right people to bring into their organization. Oklahoma City obviously does an amazing job with this. And the thing that I can't stress enough is that those organizations tend to bring in human beings that are just like truly elite in terms of work ethic, character, guys that are really willing to work and fight and scratch and claw for their careers, and that are willing to do anything it takes to develop, right? Go to Sioux Falls if you're the Miami Heat, or in Oklahoma City, you're just with the blue down the road, but you're going to fight and scratch and claw in the G League for a while, right? So like those two orgs like stand out, but like Memphis does a really good job developing guys, right? Like there are other ones, but they all have that same top-down approach. We're trying to find like elite level character guys. And I'm not sitting here saying that AJ Johnson and Tyler Smith aren't those guys. It's just that they're very young, and like, I don't even know if when they were drafted, they knew how to be that guy yet.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with, who they are as people. It's just their experiences probably like wouldn't even allow them to understand what it takes to be that at that point as like teenagers entering the NBA, right? So yeah, it's just hard. It's I'm not sitting here saying I have all the answers. I don't, Oklahoma City misses all the time.
Yeah.
Missed with Dylan Jones, like Miami will miss, it's not perfect, but the organizations that get this right more than they get it wrong have that top down approach that you're talking about and have a really, really good group of people that figure out the right bets to make from an intel perspective, from a talent perspective, everything like that.
Yeah. No, it's fun to track as you go through it and kind of see, the teams that hit more often than not and what they're identifying and the trends that go along with it.
Yep. Okay. Bryce, we're going to call it there. I said an hour and 10 and we went an hour 20. I feel okay with what this was.
Yeah. Not bad.
Not too bad. Tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack, got content cranking out over there, especially now that the regular season has started. So if your team plays the Pistons, go check it out. I'll have some notes on them along with Detroit. Obviously, the Game Theory Substack as well, where Sam's cranking out stuff, and I will contribute as much as I can, as often as I can with video breakdowns, rookies and veterans alike, along with NBA draft. And Game Theory podcast right here with the Sam Vecenie.
Yep. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Go to the Game Theory Substack channel. Like I said, I did this thing on Reed that honestly like kind of bore itself out in game one. So go watch the Reed Shepherd video that I did. GameTheorySamV.substack.com. I appreciate everybody that's coming over and subscribing there. It's so incredibly kind of you guys to do so and to be a part of this community that we're building over there. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie. Think we're up over like 78,000, something like that, like in that ballpark. I can't believe this thing is growing in the way that it is. It's just awesome and so ridiculously cool to see this thing grow in the way that it has over the last year or so. That's about all that I've got today. Bryce will not be back for the normal Thursday show. Bryce has life duties to do. Andrew and I will talk about what we have seen through the first couple of days of the NBA outside of opening night on Thursday night. So join us for that. We're really, really excited to jump in and talk through all of that. It's a really, really fun start to the NBA season already with this Oklahoma City Houston game. We're going to get a ton of games tomorrow. We're going to get a couple on Thursday. It's going to be amazing. Thank you all for hanging out. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.